NHS care provision, Matthew, full NHS care provision. You know, it was the generation that helped build the NHS, and they must now look on and wonder how it's collapsing around them.
And it's worth reminding ourselves that the NHS was set up through borrowing. Mark Jones, pleasure talking to you. Let's have a quick word with Stephen in Chester about how we fund and improve military. Morning, Stephen.
Stephen here.
Hi there.
I'm waiting to go on next.
Yes, you're on now. You're speaking to me. Hi. How do we improve our military?
And then keep
basically, I remember a comedy programme called Yes Minister, and basically he argued as we went along, when would you pull the trigger for nuclear deterrence, Prime Minister? When they're coming down Whitehall? No, you wouldn't press it, would you? Basically, according to the House of Commons Library, in the most conservative estimates for the cost of the nuclear deterrent, if we got rid of that, we could have 1 million drones. We could have 20 frigates, 40 Type 31 frigates, lots of stealth fighters. The money's there, and as the caller said before us, £9 billion is spent every year for the banks, for their interest, for their reserves. There's plenty of money, we just need to reallocate it. The nuclear deterrent is pointless, it doesn't deter anyone, it hasn't deterred Putin doing anything whatsoever.
Stephen, I'm kind of pleased to end on that note. It was, I think that, again, the theme of this house seems to be blow up the MOD would be a substantial step forward in improving the security of our nation, which is not how I imagined the hour to have gone, but I appreciate your thoughts all the same. Most informative. And with that, I'm gone. Thanks for the calls. I'm back tomorrow. If you've missed any of today's show, you can listen back on either the Global Player app or the LBC app. Both are available for free from your app store now. Coming up at 12 on LBC, Tally Mirage, but now in for Matt Fry, it's Ben Kentish.
Thank you, Matthew. Nice Thank you. Very good morning to you as well, and a very, very good morning indeed to you, and welcome to the programme this morning. Coming up...
At the NASDAQ in Times Square, at Starbase, it's SpaceX celebrating its record-breaking IPO, a $75 billion offering, priced at $135.
Elon Musk, officially the world's first ever trillionaire after that stock market valuation of SpaceX. Is one man being that incomprehensibly rich morally acceptable in your view? Your thoughts on that to come. Plus, Nigel Farage tells LBC why he wants to be Prime Minister. Are you convinced he's up to the job? But first...
Well, you can see when things are heading towards an impasse. Number 10 needs to find a resource, but Defence needs to actually make a defence investment plan that is not preparing for the last war.
More pressure on Keir Starmer today to slash the welfare budget to fund defence. That after the shock resignation of both his Defence Secretary and his Armed Forces Minister. But is that a trade-off you accept? Should we be taking benefits away from people to fund bombs? Call me now, 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock. The US military says it shot down Iranian drones overnight as they threatened commercial shipping on the Strait of Hormuz. The attack comes as the US and Iran suggest they're close to agreeing a deal to end the conflict. It's hoped a memorandum of understanding could be signed this week. Defence analyst Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford told LBC a deal is more likely now than at any other time.
But this time I think there are a number of incentives, apart from the obvious problems which are being created by the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz. The President's birthday is tomorrow. Also, we've got the G7 summit coming up in Evian in France. So these are sort of backstops to which President Trump, no doubt, would like to arrive and say, I've done this.
Equipment belonging to the England World Cup team has been stolen from vehicles as it made its way to the team's training base in Kansas. Police in the US say 2 people have been arrested. A deadline to remove Donald Trump's name from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts has been missed. A court ordered the lettering to be taken down by yesterday. The White House administration say bad weather has caused delays. The former rugby league player Kevin Sinfield's been knighted in the King's Birthday Honours list. He's raised more than £11 million for motor neurone disease charities, inspired by his teammate Rob Burrow, who had the condition.
The courage and bravery he showed is still rippling and ripping right through the MND community and
and the rugby coach, sport across the UK, it's still, you know, people want to talk to me about Rob all the time, so he's never out of my thoughts.
The actress Helen Mirren and 6 of England's lionesses were also named in the honours list. And the King's official birthday isn't just being celebrated with knighthood. This morning, the annual Trooping of the Colour Parade takes place in London. Thousands of soldiers, horses and musicians will join the ceremony, which will also include a flypast. It all begins in about half an hour. The royal family will watch the celebrations from Buckingham Palace balcony. LBC weather cool with showers in the north, warmer and more likely to stay dry in the south. A high today of 22 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Sinead Carroll.
So we need a social media wrap-up for the Work Bake-Off. Any takers?
I can design posts on Canva.
I can also design posts on Canva.
Aha. Well, I can design posts with the Jam Tart theme on Canva.
That's great. I can design posts with the Jam Tart theme and generate a moving image of a jam roly-poly rolling on Canva.
Well, I can design posts and create a 3D headline that says bake your tarts out on Canva.
I can design posts and create a 3D headline and turn your face into a Bakewell tart on Canva.
All right, calm down.
With a huge range of easy-to-use design AI tools, anyone can with Canva.
I can slice a video of a croquembouche.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Ben Kentish.
Just gone 10 o'clock. Hello there. A very, very good morning indeed to you this sunny summer Saturday. You listen to Ben Kentish, temporarily filling the very large hand-polished, hand-stitched shoes temporarily vacated by Matt Fry here on LBC this morning. Lovely to have you with me. Lots coming up. We'll look at Elon Musk becoming the world's first ever trillionaire. I'll be asking you whether you think it's morally defensible for anybody, any individual, to have that amount of money. Plus, as Nigel Farage exclusively tells LBC why he wants to be Prime Minister, how convinced are you that he's actually up to the job? All of that still to come over the next couple of hours. But we start this morning, I should say, with the dramatic resignation of John Healey and Al Collins as Defence Secretary and Armed Forces Minister, respectively, this week. Resignations that have prompted a fresh outcry in Westminster over the failure to properly invest in defence and fresh pressure being piled on Keir Starmer to cut the welfare budget in order to fund it. This morning, would-be Prime Minister Andy Burnham becomes the very latest senior politician to say that the welfare bill needs to be cut. He's on the front page of the Times newspaper, insisting that if he does make it to Downing Street, then he will try to cut welfare. I'm not squeamish, he says, about saying that the plan would be to reduce the welfare bill. Not at all, although he does insist he would do it in a fair way, rather than just what he calls the crude short-term cuts that we've seen previously. This, of course, comes as the Tories and Reform attack the Labour government for, as they allege, prioritising welfare over the weapons we need to keep this country safe. I wonder if you agree with them. Should we prepare to slash welfare spending in order to fund increased spending on defence? Is that something you think this country just clearly and categorically right now needs to do? Or is taking away support for disabled people, those out of work, pensioners, in order to buy more drones and jets and bombs, not something you think we should be doing? Because you might have noticed that a lot of the politicians who say we must cut welfare are far less clear about who they think benefits should be taken away from specifically. So what do you think? Is this the right priority? Cut benefits, boost defence spending, or is that not a trade-off you think we should be making when times are so tough and so many people are struggling, many of whom are reliant on the very benefits that our entire political class, it now seems to agree pretty much, need to be cut? Call me this morning. 0345 6060 973 is the number to ring, or to WhatsApp. You can text me on 84850. I would love to hear your thoughts on that between now and 11 o'clock. First, though, let's hear from one of the men who sparked this latest debate. Al Collins, formerly Armed Forces Minister until his resignation on Thursday, spoke to my colleague Nick Ferrari here on LBC to explain why he thinks we need to boost defence spending.
Well, this is part of the problem. We're fighting each other rather than getting behind the nation, unifying the nation around a common principle of purpose. And that purpose is to defend the nation, defend the freedoms that we enjoy, and ensure we've got the determination and courage to make those difficult decisions. First of all, we could have the honest conversation. 20% of the country sort of recognise that we're in a very difficult geopolitical situation with lots of different threats. I would like to increase that 20% to easy over 50% of the population, recognising that the problems abroad impact us here in the UK, whether that's inflation around food pricing, whether that's the Middle East on fuel, and recognise that if we don't have a strong armed forces, we can't actually have any leverage over those decisions. And so spending on one protects the other.
Now, even if you accept, and I do personally, that we do need to spend more on defence, do you accept there's no other way to fund it, apart from taking welfare payments away from what could be quite a lot of vulnerable people? 0345 6060 973, the number once more for your calls on that. While you ring in, let's hear from Diane Abbott, who is the independent MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington. Diane, good to have you with us this morning. Thanks for joining me. There is this sort of political consensus from the Liberal Democrats on the left all the way to Reform on the right that we need to be spending a lot more money in this country on defence. You're one of the rare voices, I think it's fair to say, in Westminster who's not part of that consensus. Tell us why.
Because people generally, as you say, in Westminster are in favour of cutting welfare and spending it on armaments. But when you ask people specifically what would they cut, if you ask our voters what would they cut education? Would they cut the health service? Would they cut welfare? They don't want to do it. And I think we should look at the way the whole defence budget is managed. Huge amounts of waste, huge amounts of billions of pounds problematic in relation to the defence budget. Waste, poor procurement. Let's look at that first before we talk about cutting the NHS.
But Diane, there was an independent review carried out by, amongst others, a former General Secretary of NATO for the government, which concluded, as many military experts have, that we do need not just to reduce waste, but also to increase the funding overall. Why are you so convinced that that assessment's wrong?
Yeah, well, military experts always want more money spent on armaments and bombs. Politicians have to make choices. We already spend a lot of money on defence. We've made provision in the next financial year to put up defence spending by 8.43%, but we're actually going to shrink the money spent on education. Of course, generals and people that work for the defence industry and defence lobbyists want to spend more money on defence. What we have to make a choice on is how are we going to protect the vulnerable so that generals and former generals can have the latest in armaments or nuclear weapons.
There's a lot of vested interest at play here in your view, are there?
Well, yes. I mean, there's no more effective lobby than defence lobby, because there are billions to be made out of defence. I think it's for politicians to stand back and say, are we just here giving money to the defence industry, or are we trying to build a better society?
That might be true, but I mean, would you not accept that with the increasingly aggressive expansionist Vladimir Putin, rise of China, the ongoing threat posed by Iran, that we do need to be doing far more than we have in years gone by to defend ourselves as a country?
Well, we have to look at the international issues around defence and armaments. But it's already the case that the 6 leading European countries in NATO spend more than twice as much as Russia. Britain, has the biggest defence budget in NATO apart from the United States. So I think we need to look at the money we're spending before we say we're going to spend billions more, which mostly go to American armaments factories. We need to be spending more on that. I don't think so.
One way to do that would be to cut the welfare bill in the way that Andy Burnham is talking about this morning, Diane. Are you disappointed to hear him echoing this rhetoric about the need to slash welfare spending?
I'm a little disappointed. And as I said earlier, I think he'll find that when he actually starts to specify what he's going to cut, is it the elderly, is it the disabled, I think he'll find it's easier to talk about cutting welfare, not so easy to actually do it.
Is it really sustainable for £1 in every £4 that the government currently spends to be being spent on the welfare budget?
Yeah, but what would you cut? That's the problem.
And that's the tough decision. But do we not start from the point of accepting that that simply isn't sustainable for any government?
No, we have to start from the position about what sort of society we want. And when we decided that, then we can consider throwing money at defence industry lobbying.
But it's not just defence, of course, because that's a huge amount. It's basically it's by far the biggest expenditure of all government outgoings. If we cut the welfare budget, it's not just defence that we could fund more; it's schools and hospitals and roads and all the other things you've mentioned.
Yeah, but people talking about spending more money on defence, they're also talking about cutting education and health. It's what our priorities are as a society, and it's acknowledging that we already spend. We spend more than any other NATO country apart from the United States on defence.
We do, but my question was more about welfare and whether you are happy with the current levels of welfare spending as they are, and whether you think we can continue to afford them.
Well, we have to be able to afford to help the ill and the old.
What about the triple lock? That's something that could go, isn't it? That would save billions of pounds.
Sorry, I didn't catch
that. The triple lock, that's a part of welfare spending that could be reduced.
Well, you need to go out there and tell the elderly that you're going to slash their money, rather you than me.
Well, that's not an argument against it, Diane. That's just saying that people won't like it.
People that say you need to go out there and do it. As I say, last year, Keir Starmer tried to do it, and he had to roll the whole plan back.
That doesn't mean it was the wrong thing, necessarily. It was done in a poor way. But that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing.
We have to look at society as a whole. We have to look at the type of society we want. I'm not saying that there are ways of narrowing the amount of money we spend on welfare. But the main way of doing that is what Andy Burnham said, putting people back to work.
Yes, fine. Let's just talk for a moment about the events that have sort of prompted this debate this week. The resignation of John Healey and then Al Khan's as well. Do you think Keir Starmer can recover from this as Prime Minister and continue in the job?
Well, I think it's a bit tricky, to say the least. And you do wonder why John Healey is doing this. Does he think really that Keir Starmer's going to lose any leadership election, and he might as well get ready quickly to jump on the Andy Burnham bandwagon? I don't know.
That's a bit cynical, Diane, isn't it? He says he's doing it. He says he's doing it on principle because he doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership on this issue.
I'm afraid politics makes you cynical.
It does.
You do wonder. It's all about the timing, isn't it?
But you say it's difficult for him to recover. I mean, let me ask you directly. Do you think he'll be Prime Minister at the time of the Labour Party conference in September?
I doubt it.
And it will be Andy Burnham who is Prime Minister instead, in your view, do you think?
You never know what's going to happen. You never know. Politics is full of surprises.
It is. But do you think he'd do a better job than Keir Starmer?
Well, I'm reluctant to make it personal, but there's no doubt Andy Burnham is very popular with the public and specifically with Labour voters.
Do you think he'd do a better job as Prime Minister?
I don't want to make it personal. We'll see.
That's not about personality. That's just saying, is one politician more suited for the rigours and the demands of Downing Street than the other?
Well, Keir Starmer is doing his very best. Let's see what happens.
I think that's what they call damning with faint praise. He tries.
He does.
Would you? Let me ask you a slightly different question. If Andy Burnham was Labour leader, would you like to rejoin the? Would you like to take the Labour whip and become a Labour member of Parliament again?
I've always wanted to serve the Labour Party and to serve Labour voters. And the thing that I had the whip withdrawn for are actually now Labour Party policy.
In what sense?
Well, one of the things that people people had the whip withdrawn from them was the issue about the limits on the money for children. The limit on...
But in your case, it was the comments you made about race that had led to you having the whip withdrawn.
Well, I mean, I've stood up on race my entire political career, and I don't think in practice it was the wrong thing to stand up on. Let's see what's happened in Belfast, where people of colour have found themselves being burnt out of their homes. I think there's a lot to be said for standing up on issues around race.
All right, interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Diane Abbott, Independent MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington. We have to leave it there. We'll talk to the former director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies in just a few minutes to get his perspective